I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad to see all of you and all of you on Zoom, in Zoom land. Is anybody here for the first time? Raise your hand if you don't mind. Great, welcome. I like to say no experience necessary. We're all beginners, especially me. So again, I'm happy to see you all here. So it was quite a wild night here, wasn't it? In St. Paul, I don't think the sirens went off, but in Minneapolis they did. So maybe some of you are sleep deprived. I hope not. So we're going to do a little sitting to start, and then I'm going to offer some reflections, and then I hope we'll be able to have a chance to have some contributions from any of you that choose to. We'll see how the time goes. Lately, I've been talking to a lot of people who feel pretty unsettled. Does anybody here feel that way? Vulnerable? And that's a felt sense in the body. And so I thought before we actually sit in silence and have a relative degree of stillness, we might move our bodies a little. So one of the things that's known to help with anxiety or nervous system activation is to shake a little bit. So if you feel like shaking, nobody's looking at you. You can just do it yourself. Just whatever you want to do. You can shake your hands or you can stand up and shake, whatever you want to do. Just you can close your eyes so you're not self-conscious. This is something we can do on Zoom and right here. So just shaking it out a little bit. Anne is demonstrating the standing posture. And yeah, I this morning I even tried putting ice cubes under my armpits. That's actually good too. We can't do that here, but you could try it when you go home. uh, so there are real things that we can do when our nervous system is activated. And one of my favorite teachers, Ajahn Suchito, always starts with some bodily movement. He does a lot of Qigong. And he also will spend some time before he starts sitting in silence to just massage his face and his head. So if you feel like doing that too, I'll invite you to do that, or anywhere else that you feel in your body could use a little kind attention. My neck is usually pretty tight. So just whatever feels good to you. You could even pull on your earlobes a little bit. Give yourself a hug. Only if this appeals. So in my experience, that's a really good way to start sitting, to just release as much as we can in the body. We've got a little plane noise too. Is voice okay still? Okay. All right. So let's start with some sitting. I'll guide it a little bit in the beginning, and then we can have some silence as well. So, and before I start, I'll just introduce. I brought a friend along on the mantle. If you're wondering who this is Kangir Rinpoche, who's one of my favorite teachers. I never met him. He died in 1975, but he's a wonderful teacher. And this is a photograph by Mathieu Ricard, the French Tibetan monk, and I just love his face. And I put him there to remind myself that this isn't about me. I'm just offering some teachings that have come through me from people like Kangir Rinpoche and others. So he's joining us here today, as well as I have Malcolm X on my bag too. He's another one of my teachers. All right, so enough introduction. Let's sit some. So I'll start with the sound of the bell. So finding a comfortable seated posture. Feeling the body sitting on the cushion or chair, mat. Feeling the weight of the body. Feeling the support of the earth underneath. The weight of the body, the solidity of the body, the earth element in the body. Earth element in the body contacting the earth below. And let's start just by taking a short trip through the body with your mind's eye, your attention. Sometimes a good place to start is with the head, where all that thinking is happening, all that energy is focused. Just noticing what's present in the head. The neck. Noticing what's present in the shoulders, a place where many of us carry a lot of tension. And if you notice any tension in the shoulders or elsewhere in the body, you can always place a hand or hands over that place or over your heart, just offering yourself some compassion, some soothing touch. And sweeping your attention down the arms, the upper arms, the elbows, the forearms, the hands. Bringing a kind attention to the arms and the hands. And noticing the chest area, perhaps the rise and fall of the chest with the breath. Or sensations inside the chest, the beating of the heart. And noticing sensations in the upper back, another place where we may carry tension, stress. What's present this morning in the upper back? Becoming aware of the abdomen, the lower back, aware of the buttocks, the large muscles in this part of the body. Again, perhaps sensing the contact with whatever you're sitting on. The mind wanders off, just gently bringing it back. back to this body, in this place, at this time. Aware of the upper legs, the thighs, the long bones, the muscles. Aware of sensations inside and outside. Aware of the knees, another place that can be kind of cranky sometimes. What do you notice in the knees? Again, if what you notice is a little unpleasant or there's some stress stored there, and always place a hand or hands on the knees, a soothing touch. Aware of the lower legs, the ankles, the feet. These feet that carry the heavy weight of the body, that help us move through the world. Perhaps a little gratitude as well for the feet. Now expanding your awareness again to a sense of the entire body. This miraculous human body. And feeling the breath in the body, the breath coming into the body, and the breath leaving the body. Not needing to make the breath be any different than it is right now. Allowing the soothing rhythm of the breath to calm the nervous system, to help us be more present. And now we'll sit together in silence, choosing for yourself the most skillful practice this morning. If the mind is very scattered and jumpy, you might choose to focus on a more narrow object, just the in and out of the breath or particular place on the body. Or if you're feeling a little more settled and spacious this morning, you might expand your attention to include whatever is coming into your awareness moment to moment, and adjusting as you go on, moving from a closer attention to a wider one and back, if that's what's required. So let's sit together now, embodied, breathing, practicing together. If the mind has wandered off, just bringing it back gently, kindly, to the felt sense of the body sitting, to the felt sense of breathing. coming back over and over again to this body and this breath in this moment. So let's end this morning by taking a moment to put our attention once again on the felt sense of the body sitting. And expanding your attention outwards to a sense of the space around the body in whatever room you're sitting in, the meditation hall or at home. Sensing into the space around the body to the best that you are able. And as you do so, becoming aware of the other bodies in this space, the virtual space of the internet and the physical space in this meditation hall. Aware of these other bodies, these members of this community. We're all practicing together this morning. Taking the wholesome action of deciding to spend this time practicing and supporting one another. Just feeling into that space and this community on Zoom and the community here at Common Ground. Sensing in and breathing in the support of these other beings and breathing out support. So much easier to practice with others present. Breathing in the support and breathing out. And if there's anything that you'd like to offer out this morning to these other beings or to beings anywhere, really, breathing in the support of the others and breathing out whatever you'd like to offer, whether it be kindness, compassion, peace of mind, whatever you would like to offer this morning. Breathing in the support of others and breathing out your offering. Breathing in for ourselves and breathing out to others. Why don't we take a moment to stretch, whatever that looks like for you. One of the things I like to do is try to remind myself to put a smile on my face. It's really helpful. So if you've forgotten that, give it a try. My voice okay still? Okay. So I like to teach by telling stories, often other people's stories, as I think those are the things you'll remember rather than a lot of ideas. So that's what I'm going to do this morning. And I'm going to talk a little bit about curiosity, which is one of my favorite qualities in practice. So I've been cleaning out the stuff in my house where I've lived for 34 years. So there's a lot, and there's a lot of paper uh, because that's what we used to do, right? Before the internet. We still do anyways, print a lot of stuff out. So, and I wouldn't say I'm a hoarder, but I save a lot of things, especially things that are books and things like that. And what I found was an article that I read over 20 years ago in a publication called Inquiring Mind. Does anybody know Inquiring Mind? I had a copy of it and I forgot to bring it. It was what's called a broadside, so it was big and printed on newsprint. And it was started by Joseph Goldstein, a senior teacher in this tradition, and Wes Nisker, who recently passed away. And it was intended to include a lot of kind of different kinds of things. So there was art and poetry, and there were a lot of articles written by practitioners about their experience on the path. And I just loved it. It ceased publication in 2015. But if you're interested in exploring it, you can go online, of course. And they have the archive of all of the issues. It's kind of fun to look at. But this particular issue that I had saved had an article in it by a woman named Darlene Cohen. And she was at the time a 35-year-old, previously athletic, able-bodied Zen practitioner, also a mother. And she practiced at Green Gulch, Anne knows Green Gulch, which is, what would you call it, a satellite, I don't know, of the Zen Center in San Francisco. And she became disabled and crippled with pain in the space of a very few months while she was at Green Gulch. And she wrote this story that was published in Inquiring Mind called Curiosity, a Sponge for Terror. And it talks about the power of staying curious, even and especially in times that are very, very difficult, which I would say we're in one right now. And what I liked it is that it's a real kind of boots on the ground Dharma practice. Sorry to include a military metaphor, but it's just like she was doing this in the face of significant challenges. And it inspired me a great deal then, and it continues to inspire me. So I'm going to tell a little bit of her story. And if you want to find it again, you can find it. It's in the spring 2003 issue of Inquiring Mind. She also wrote a book. Darlene Cohen is her name. So I'm going to read, it's quite a long article. I'm just going to read a few excerpts from it. So I just invite you to just relax and listen to her words. As an athletic, strong woman, my fearlessness was physically based. My body was utterly reliable, and I felt a young person's invincibility. So imagine the terror of losing it all, and not slowly over time like we all do as we age, but swiftly, mercilessly, watching ability after ability fall away like so many loose hairs. I was 35 years old, living at Green Gulch Farm, a Marin County wing of the San Francisco Zen Center. It took 4 months for me to lose everything that meant anything to me. My strong, energetic body, my ability to achieve whatever I focused on and win the admiration of others for it, my pleasure in being a sexually attractive woman, my joy in bestowing the sweet attentions that mark a nurturing mother, my ability to do the required Zen training practices, which were the purpose of living in community at Green Gulch. And perhaps most tellingly, my body as slave mentality, my assumption that my body was ready and able to perform whatever function I imposed upon it without resistance. Furthermore, I was so isolated by the pain that overwhelmed every movement, by the desperate terror that also frightened everyone else who came into my panicked presence, and the consuming effort I had to make to do any little task, like get up from a chair or pick up a cup of tea. Even the breeze became a formidable antagonist. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, a very painful and crippling disease, which had also afflicted my mother. Eventually, I couldn't dress myself, hold the phone receiver, or get up from the toilet by myself. Because this all happened so rapidly within a few months' time, I was in a constant state of denial, convinced as each function disappeared that the next morning would see its return. My terror was so overwhelming that I couldn't tolerate more than a split-second intimation of it. Swept up by the power of the pain, overwhelmed and consumed by it, at first I couldn't feel anything else. But forced to completely surrender to the physicality of my existence, moment after moment, I eventually discovered that there were experiences in my body besides the pain, and not all of them were unpleasant. My whole world consisted of my body and its sensations, my bed and its coverings, my room and its furnishings. Confined to this simple but not offensive company, I began to notice each of these things had its own eccentricities. And so I moved from hoping every moment to find myself waking up from a bad dream to realizing that this room and its contents were the only life I had. I started the day asking, what part of my body works today? What can I do with the part that works? That was thrilling to me. Day planning at such a primitive level. As I settled into my new life and its particularities, curiosity replaced fear as my primary ground of being. I wanted to know every little detail about my world. This was because I was beginning to actually take refuge from despair and hopelessness in every aspect and feature of my existence. Almost at the end. We practitioners venerate the present moment. But when the present moment doesn't feel beautiful and flowing, like leaves changing with the seasons, we get confused. When it just means wrenching pain and despair, we can want to move on. But it turns out that actually experiencing despair is radically different from visualizing it beforehand with fear and deciding you can't face it. When it's actually true that the past is gone forever and the future you can imagine is even bleaker than this moment, you're more willing to sink into now. All this took place 20 plus years ago. My disability is quite relative now as my friends age. Fear and sorrow are familiar companions in my everyday, now eventful life. For decades, I have practiced integrating this despair in my ongoing emotional life through the ritualization of daily tasks. By bringing my toothbrush and my dishes, my microwave and my car into my conscious life as objects to be sanctified by my close attention, I feel their tangible support and their sometimes rather charming idiosyncrasies. Sorrow changes when it encounters the spaciousness, the holiness afforded by very close attention. I'll read that again. Sorrow changes when it encounters the spaciousness, the holiness afforded by very close attention. What cultivating attention to detail introduces is spaciousness, space around thoughts and activities that allows you to live a rich and satisfying life right in the middle of the misery. So, where does this curiosity show up in the teachings? It's actually quite important. So, as many of you know, curiosity is the seed from which investigation sprouts, the so called second factor of the factors of awakening. And so, according to this framework, once we've established mindfulness, the foundational factor, then we can begin to investigate, be curious about what we are experiencing. Till the plane goes over. And when we're curious and investigate our experience, it evokes an interest and an energy. Maybe you've experienced that when you actually focus on something, you feel some waking up energy. And that's the third factor of awakening. And this energy that we experience when we're curious and investigate leads to joy, the fourth factor, which allows the mind to relax. When we're joyful, we're able to relax into tranquility, which is the fifth factor. And when we experience tranquility, then we can deepen our concentration. And together with the other factors, this leads ultimately to the final factor, which is equanimity. And equanimity is that quality of mind which is balanced. Spacious is the word that she uses. A mind that's able to be with whatever is arising, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis or something less challenging. And I think that's what she's describing very beautifully in her article. And as she points out, equanimity doesn't mean we have to like what's happening. Oftentimes we don't. It just means that we don't have to get caught in craving or aversion. So these seven factors, they're very helpful when we're meditating, if we're going off, when we're finding ourselves caught in something. We can discern what it is we need in the moment. Do we need some of these enlivening, I'll use my left hand, enlivening factors, investigation, which brings some energy, or do we need something to calm us down because we're very activated, which might mean we need more of the tranquility, the calming factors. And we can always use these seven factors off the cushion, although they're taught in the context of meditation. So in any moment, we can pause and determine what's going on, and we can bring into our lives what it is we discern that we need to feel more balanced. And I think of them as kind of a map that I can pull out to consult when I'm lost in thought or I'm overwhelmed by emotion. I know where I want to go. I want to be more balanced. I want to have more peace of mind, but I kind of forget the sequence of things that can get me there. So if I can actually determine where I am in the journey, am I actually needing some calming factors, or am I needing some more energy than I need to, I know I can remember what I need to do next. And for me, this second factor, curiosity, is the one that I think I draw on the most. It gets me going in the right direction. And it helps me to avoid my mental habit patterns and my stories and see what's actually going on. So it's curiosity that again and again pulls me out of it. What's happening right now? And I think what I love about it the most is that there's an absence of judgment in curiosity. There's no right or wrong way to be curious. There's no black or white, good or bad. We're just curious. We just want to know more. We want to investigate. And we can be curious about anything, even the stuff that we're ashamed of. And we might not want to admit to somebody else. What does jealousy feel like in the body? What is the energy of revenge? Now, I might not want to tell somebody that I'm jealous or feeling a lot of revenge, but I can certainly investigate it in my own experience. So in the beginning of my practice, I didn't quite know how to do this investigation in a way that was onward leading. I thought it meant thinking and figuring out. I'm a figuring out person. Anybody here go to figuring out? Yeah. I like to figure out. I like to find a solution, but there often isn't a solution, right? So I could find a million reasons why I was thinking or feeling a particular way, but it didn't relieve the suffering. I used to be a reference librarian, so I could find lots of peer-reviewed articles on possible causes for whatever I was experiencing, depression, sadness, whatever. But I couldn't describe my own felt sense of it. So some of the best advice that I ever got from somebody was not to ask the question what, but to ask the question what rather than why. Why am I feeling depressed kind of led me to it. It didn't lead me to a very satisfying place, but if I could ask, what is depression? What actually am I experiencing? It took me in a path that was much more helpful. It also helped me to unplug from all my stories about it. So I began to ask myself questions like, what does fear feel like in the body or whatever you're experiencing, rather than why am I afraid? What does aversion feel like? What does craving feel like in the body? If you notice, craving it's an impulse to move forward, at least in me. So really to investigate that and get familiar with it. What is the energetic sense of joy? It's actually quite different from fear. And for me, most importantly, I think, is how am I relating to whatever I am experiencing? Is it with kindness and compassion? Or is it with criticism and ill will? It took me a long time to learn that. It wasn't until I taught the mindful self-compassion class, you teach what you need, that I actually got that kindness and compassion could be offered to myself and was just a critical part of this path. And the thing that I suggested during the guided meditation of placing a hand or hands on your body if you're feeling tension there is part of it's a visceral thing. It's a felt sense. So Ruth King, maybe you know Ruth King, she actually came here a few years ago. She wrote a book called Mindful Race. This is a quote from that book. To investigate is not to assume that experiences will stand still until we conclude our study. Rather, to investigate is to experience impermanence with a kind of awareness. When we investigate, we are practicing discernment, not judging ourselves. Discernment allows us to identify those mind states we want to support and those we want to let go. So sensations in the body, thoughts, emotions, they all come and go. They're all impermanent. And if we can remember to be curious about them rather than judgmental, they can provide wonderful opportunities for understanding for ourselves what leads to suffering and what leads to happiness. So I'd like to end with a request. Please don't take anything that I've offered this morning as another reason to criticize yourself or another standard by which to measure yourself. Don't ask yourself, well, if Darlene Cohen could do it with, rheumatoid or arthritis, why can't I? That's my tendency. That's why I'm saying this. So one of the gifts that she offered, not in that article, but later on, was the gift of honesty. And there was a tribute written for her after her death. She died in 2011 by one of her students named David Kessler. And I think it's a wonderful sequel to that article that she wrote earlier. So this is David Kessler. A common pitfall on the spiritual path is the idea that meditation practice should produce a state of perpetual equanimity and acceptance. Does anybody think that? One in which negative feelings like anger, frustration, and despair are never experienced. Darlene went out of her way to dispel this misguided notion whenever she encountered it. In fact, one of the greatest gifts I received from her was learning the value of distraction. Now, distraction's not something that you often hear talked about in a meditation hall, but I'm a fan. So she had a special name for it, down and dirty comfort. Here's how she explains it in her book, Turning Suffering Inside Out. So this is Darlene speaking. Even though it's an ideal time to, quote, embrace the suffering, end quote, or learn to, quote, dance with disaster, end quote, you don't care. Furthermore, you don't care that you don't care. You've had it with trying to expand your consciousness. You hate your life and everybody in it. Nobody else cares. Why should you? You're at the end of your rope. It's time for down and dirty comfort. What you need is whatever will get you through the next few hours. One particular Friday, I was exhausted, miserable, and resentful. I had worked hard all week, and it seemed to me that nobody appreciated me. Oh, this speaks to my heart. Clients canceled their appointments, and nobody was taking any of my advice. My poor me tape started running, and my joints hurt. Although we were out of cookies, there were 2 Haagen-Dazs ice cream sandwiches in the fridge. I put them on a plate, curled up in bed under the thick comforter just the way I was, with my clothes on and shoes on, and clicked on the TV. Geraldo, now maybe some of you don't know Geraldo, he had a talk show, was having a celebrity gossip fest with tabloid reporters, telling it all. I settled down to a blissful haze of pain, sugar, and gossip. I was actually pretty transported, feeling much better about life, when the phone next to my bed rang a half hour later. That was before cell phones. Since I didn't want to go back into being available mode, I had absolutely no intention of answering the phone or even listening to the message. But habit was stronger than gossip bliss. After the answering machine's various clicks indicated someone was beginning to record, I muted the TV at the last minute. A woman I didn't know began telling my machine she had heard my lecture and was very moved and impressed and wanted to study with me. I was such an inspiring person. She was sure forming a teaching relationship with me would help her cope with the pain she had in her life, since I had such an example with mine. She left her phone number. I clicked the TV mute button off and went back to Geraldo. In a few moments, I was laughing out loud. Here I was, the pain guru, the person people in pain want to emulate. I looked at myself huddled, fully dressed under the bed covers in the middle of the day, driven there by pain and self-pity, the plate full of ice cream sandwich crumbs sliding off to one side, my annoyance at having missed some Madonna gossip during the phone call, and thought, this is it. This really is my teaching. Kessler concludes, Darlene's authenticity was refreshing. She was real. She let her students see not only her wisdom and strength, but also her humanity and pain. She taught me to continue to draw the circle of acceptance wider and wider until it included everything, especially the unacceptable. So the Buddha said, Ehi passiko, come and see for yourself. So I would invite you to be curious and see for yourself what is true. be curious, and make sure to be kind when you just can't do it. So thank you for listening. And we've got a few minutes for what I like to do is invite your wisdom, your comments, reactions, anything else that you'd like to share on the topic of curiosity, kindness, anything else you'd like to share. Yeah. So are we going to use the mic? Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm Alan, and my question actually doesn't flow directly from your talk, but instead from something you said in your introduction. And that was that one of your teachers is Malcolm X. And yeah, I know a little bit about Malcolm X, but not very much. And I'm just real curious about what some of the teachings are that are important to you that you've gleaned from Malcolm X.
One of the things that I admire about Malcolm X is that he was so clear about who he was and what he was working for, and made some changes in his life based on what he was learning in the moment. Was a leader and an advocate for his people. Didn't let himself be pulled down. All those things. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Something they'd like to comment on, add?
I have a question here on Zoom.
Oh, thank you.
So you've mentioned having tendencies of self-criticism or figuring it out. And I experienced that pretty constantly throughout my experience with quite literally everything. And I'm curious how curiosity has helped you open space, because for me, curiosity can quickly get co-opted by the figure it out in order to fix and get control over stuff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, curiosity is so much of an embodied thing. So when I can get myself out of my head, when I can move down away from the thoughts and the fixing it thoughts and criticizing thoughts, again, into the felt sense of the body. What am I actually experiencing in my body? Those things change, and I can watch them change, and I have a better appreciation of the fact that they're not fixed, that they're not me, mine, etc., that they are just this body, this process moving. And to develop a vocabulary for that, which I didn't really have, I think, when I first started it. I didn't even know how to describe what was going on in my body. So, I taught mindfulness-based stress reduction for 15 years, and that gave me some vocabulary. And I was a clinical social worker for a while, and I learned that way too. So for me, it was a very, very, and I had a lot of opinions about my body, what it should be like, what it should look like, what wasn't acceptable. And so I had to work with that as well to see how I wanted to jump into my thinking again about that and just come back. So just over and over again to learn the language of the body and to be able to stay with that and see how it was moving and changing was a very important thing for me. And the one thing that allowed me to do that more easily was to learn that I could soothe myself physically. So, and I learned that some of that through the mindful self-compassion work, that it was okay to hug myself if I needed a hug, or place a hand on my body. So that I needed to calm down my nervous system enough so I could stay with the body. That's a long answer, but that was my experience. Does that help?
Yeah, I think the calming down your nervous system so you can stay with the body piece is helpful. That's something I'm trying trying to figure out was what I was about to say. But yeah, just the habit energy of mental flight from bodily distress is very entrenched. So trying to be more with the body, even though it's elusive right now, it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a culture that rewards thinking, right? And fixing and figuring it out. And so we're working against the stream. And it takes time, and practice. I mean, even to, as we started, to shake a little bit is a good way to start, to begin to loosen up some of what we're holding in the body. So yeah, that's my experience. Maybe others have things they'd like to add to that. Thanks for the question. Anybody else? Ah, yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe and appreciate the talk. I also appreciate the article at the end, or the down and dirty comfort. And just share that in my experience as someone who's a doer, a figure outer, those sort of those are my habits. A few years back, whenever I became sick, I had a similar sort of experience of like having things shift, and just being able to tune in, like you said, to the body and going, okay, if I'm feeling tired, maybe some rest, right? And also kind of, instead of going, okay, well, why am I tired? How can I fix that? How can I change that? Just being able to say a little bit of rest will bring some clarity or some space for curiosity to see what moves next. And it's a good reminder, even in health, particularly as if the pain isn't there, what is moving that is moving in a good way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So let's see, we go to what time? 10, 11:40, 11:45, is that right? Yeah,
45.
yeah. Maybe I want to read a poem by one of my favorite poets, and then I'd like to dedicate the merit. So this is a poem called Questions About Angels by Billy Collins, who used to be the poet laureate of the United States. He wrote a poem called Buddha Shoveling Snow or something, a great one. Okay, so this is Questions About Angels. Of all the questions you might want to ask about angels, the only one you ever hear is how many can dance on the head of a pin. No curiosity about how they pass the eternal time, besides circling the throne, chanting in Latin, or delivering a crust of bread to a hermit on earth, or guiding a boy and girl across a rickety wooden bridge. Do they fly through God's body and come out singing? Do they swing like children from the hinges of the spirit world, saying their names backwards and forwards? Do they sit alone in little gardens, changing colors? What about their sleeping habits, the fabric of their robes, their diet of unfiltered divine light? What goes on inside their luminous heads? Is there a wall these tall presences can look over and see hell? If an angel fell off a cloud, would he leave a hole in a river? And would the hole float along endlessly, filled with silent letters of every angelic word? If an angel delivered the mail, would he arrive in a blinding rush of wings, or would he just assume the appearance of the regular mailman and whistle up the driveway reading the postcards? No, the medieval theologians control the court. The only question you ever hear about is the little dance floor in the head of a pin where halos are meant to converge and drift invisibly. It is designed to make us think in millions, billions, to make us run out of numbers and collapse into infinity. But perhaps the answer is simply one. One female angel dancing alone in her stocking feet, a small jazz combo working in the background. She sways like a branch in the wind, her beautiful eyes closed. And the tall, thin bassist leans over to glance at his watch because she has been dancing forever. And now it is very late, even for musicians. If you're ever depressed, read Billy Collins' poetry. It's wonderful. So I'd like to end by our dedicating the merit, the wholesomeness of our practice together. So if you'd like to settle in again to a comfortable posture. Once again, feeling the weight of the body sitting. Feeling the support of the earth underneath. Feeling the breath moving in the body. Feeling the presence of everyone here in this room and in this virtual practice space on Zoom. And dedicating whatever goodness, whatever merit may have come from our coming together today, or taking time out of our lives to come and practice, to practice with one another, to explore the Dharma. Dedicating whatever goodness may have come from this practice to the welfare of all beings everywhere. And let's include especially Melissa Hortman and her husband John and their dog Gilbert. And to all those who have suffered violence, pain, and to those who also experience joy. May the goodness of our practice be for the welfare of all beings everywhere. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering and know the causes of suffering. May all beings everywhere know peace. Thank you for coming. Have a great day. Oh, sorry.
Hey, people, announcements for upcoming programs at Common Ground. Guest teacher talk with Tuare Sala, Wednesday, July 2nd, 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Half day retreat with Shelley Graff, Saturday, July the 5th at 1 p.m. Buddhist studies class, intro to Sutta study with Shelley Graff. This is 6 Mondays class, July 7th through August 11th. And that's Monday night, 7:30 p.m. And that is designed for people who have attended 3 or more mindfulness retreats and have a commitment to daily meditation practice. Next one is the Melody of the Dharma chanting workshop with Stacy and Robin Major. Saturday, July 12th, 1 p.m. And at Prairie Farm Retreat Center, work practice period with Corey Clementson, Friday, July 11th, starting at 4:30 p.m. to Friday, July 18th, ending at 2 p.m. And you can attend for part or all of the period. Cultivating Virtue as a Support for Awakening. This is a residential retreat with Win Fricky and Gabe Keller Flores. And right now there's camping spots only for that. That's Thursday, July 24th at the evening time through Sunday, July 27th at midday. And finally, the Divine Abodes Retreat is the 4 Dimensions of Love with Patrice Kelsch. That's Thursday, August 14th in the evening through Sunday, August 17th, midday. And check out commongroundmeditation.org for retreats, courses, and workshops. Thank you.